What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the online Jamily? JamiroFan 2000 here with yet another episode of JamiroFan Talks About. For the uninitiated in this discussion series of my channel of nearly 8 years, this is my periodic discussion series looking at the past, present, and future of Jamiroquai and their now over 31 years of musical and influential making. Now, this is going to be episode 201, and I hope everybody on the online Jamily have been enjoying all of the prior 200 episodes of JamiroFan Talks About, and it's definitely going to be much more of this series to come as we enter into the ninth album era of the Wheels of Steel. Oh, sorry, the Heels of Steel tour 2025 for Jamiroquai. And in this episode of JamiroFan Talks About, I thought I'd talk about a little bit. Now, bear in mind, this episode is going to be a bit of a speculative episode, but I thought I'd do an episode speculating on the tour artwork potentially having a connection with the album art for the TBA, of course, ninth Jamiroquai album, which doesn't have a title right now. That is going to be optimistically coming out sometime in 2025. Now, Jamiroquai albums in the past, in their 8-album discography, have had either concepts or connections with their artwork that came out for those albums, and I'll just give you a few examples off the top of my head. In 1994, the Return of the Space Cowboy utilized NASA photography from the Apollo 11 moon mission because the lead single was called Space Cowboy, so a little bit of a space by way of marijuana euphemismal type of connection there. And of course, the album from 2010 for Jamiroquai for Rock Dust Lightstar was featuring JK on the cover in front of a live crowd to represent how JK's approach to Rock Dust Lightstar, the first album out of the gate for Jamiroquai's burgeoning Universal Music album deal, was to basically represent that this album was going to be produced with the concept of it being live, and that Jamiroquai would perform all these new songs from where within that album in the live arena. So when I first saw this new tour artwork for the Heels of Steel tour come out for 2025, I pretty much my brain started pondering, could this have some connection with the ninth Jamiroquai album artwork? And I know now I've talked to many people in the band, and I realized that a lot of people are like, this is really early on, and then finally finishing this album. I mean, they still had to get Shala into the studio to record his percussionary portions of all the new material for the ninth Jamiroquai album. But it begs the question: could this kind of metal wall etched Buffalo Man imagery that had been using for the tour artwork for the Heels of Steel tour for between November to December of 2025, which most definitely will be the supporting tour for wherever the ninth Jamiroquai album comes out, whenever it comes out in 2025. Could this have a connection, or could it be a theme, or could it be something connected with the album artwork? Now, that is a hard question to ask. Like I just pointed out in two other album examples, Jamiroquai in the past have used concepts and imagery to promote an album. And another great example of an album that actually utilized this kind of concept was back in with their breakthrough album in 1996. Of course, I'm talking about Traveling Without Moving. JK, the actual album art for Traveling Without Moving, that logo is actually a logo on a custom-made Lamborghini Diablo purple coal that he made that you probably saw in the music videos for All Right and, of course, Cosmic Girl in that album era. But that logo of the Buffalo Man was an actual, genuine commission logo that they put onto JK's custom-made Lamborghini Diablo, purple Lamborghini Diablo that made an appearance in several of the most prominent music videos from that album era. Not to mention, for any eagle-eyed members of the Jamily who were on the internet and the early online Jamily and the pre-social media internet, the official website, at least in Japan and the UK, utilized a gear shift kind of navigation approach to that was very reminiscent of the gear shift in the Lamborghini Diablo. So if any members of the Jamily who remember the Japanese and UK era or early first official Jamiroquai fan sites, when record labels started actually investing into the internet for music promotion and eventually music streaming literally 20 years later, they did utilize a lot of the actual dashboard artwork and, of course, the aspects of the dashboard of that custom-made Lamborghini for that navigation and the album artwork for Traveling on Moving. So the real question is, and I'm just giving you a few examples of what I mean by concept and other imagery, could this metalwork metal etched Buffalo Man be indicative of some of the artwork for the Night Jamiroquai album, which so far still doesn't have a title. I think there's a possibility. There could be a connection. And some of the tours they've done in the past, they've also did the same thing. As much as they did with the album artwork and imagery, they also did it with some of the tour artwork. So they've done it on both avenues. So this metal imagery for this upcoming tour, highly anticipated tour, could have a connection with the ninth album, and we're only going to be able to find this out probably over time as we go into 2025. I'm sure more information and actual album artwork will come out, but it'll be really cool in the end if it turns out that this absolutely cool kind of metal etched Buffalo Man with like a laser imagery makes it possibly into the Night Jamiroquai album. Like I said right out of the gate of this episode, JamiroFan Talks About, this is purely a speculative episode. I'm not saying or alluding, confirming or denying that the album artwork the tour artwork for the Heels of Steel Tour 2025 has any connection with potentially the artwork for Jamiroquai album 9. It's just purely a speculative episode, and I like to think out loud when it comes to these speculative episodes. But that's it for this episode of JamiroFan Talks About. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like what you saw, be sure to like it, subscribe, and ding the bell on your YouTube to stay up to date on all the newest content coming from the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel. I will fully endeavor to keep bringing you all the latest news as it becomes available, and I'm sure we're going to be busy. We're going to have a very busy holiday season and a very busy first quarter of 2025. But as always, this is JamiroFan 2000, and I'll see you again really soon with more content here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care, and happy holidays.